the Americanized German who runs around wagging her finger and fist at the Russians for being bad, for not respecting whatever she thinks is appropriate and deserving the worst. She's the one that announced that Europe and Germany were at war with Russia, which deeply troubled and upset the German population, which has absolutely no interest in being at war with anybody. So I think she's going to go, and I think Scholz is going to have a tough time surviving. Now, when does the no confidence vote come? Under what circumstances, who knows? But I think it's inevitable. I don't think Mr. Macron is on particularly strong ground either, but his presidency is a little bit more robust than Chancellor Scholz's position. And you see London is chaos. So the bottom line is I think something will give in Europe, and when it does, and when things crack, we're going to see the edifice collapse rather dramatically. At which point in time, the question is, what do we do? Because we brought this on. Remember, the Biden administration insisted over and over and over again that they were going to strengthen NATO. They were going to build it up, and now NATO is stronger than ever. Well, all you have to do is look at the promises made to deliver equipment and what actually showed up, and it's very weak. And that was a message that Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, delivered at his last meeting with the various NATO allies and other partners asking for equipment. And he gets a promise of 3 tanks from Portugal. He gets a promise of X number of tanks from Germany, and thus far nothing's shown up. Now we're being told that if the German tanks do show up, they're probably going to have to be manned by Germans and Poles and others, and because the Ukrainians can't be trained up to do it. In fact, just yesterday, we received reports that a German Leopard tank was already captured in the vicinity of Bakhmut, and it was manned entirely by Polish soldiers. So the Polish soldiers were captured along with a tank. We'll see what that looks like when the media gets a hold of it and we get pictures.
Well, and all right, so presuming the Ukrainian military is at some point just exhausted. I mean, as you're talking about in that article you sent today, in fact, let me refer the readers to that so we make sure it's in the show notes and everything too. It's at the Kiev Independent. It's KievIndependent.com. Ukrainian soldiers in Bakhmut, our troops are not being protected. And yeah, he says, if you go to the front, it's a 30 to 70 chance that you'll make it back at all. These people are being killed and, of course, blown to pieces, right, by artillery shells is what most of the fighting is. So it's just an absolute horror show going on over there. And this article is a really in-depth thing. The guy spent at least a few days at the front here interviewing different guys about. Well,
remember, Scott, that is a Ukrainian newspaper.
Right. Yeah, and it's you got to figure maybe some of the worst is left out, but what remains is really bad. And they're talking about
the other thing to keep in mind is the Ukrainians have already fired 1 million artillery shells. That doesn't